estimated service life is 45 years. Its suitable environment could be any wet structure or running surfaces, and application is simple. We can just use roller or brush or any airless spray to apply it. So the key benefits are its simple installation, it's long lasting, it's efficient barrier, it doesn't allow any chloride or any deleterious element to enter. Even if the CP system fails, it can still prevent it as a barrier coating. It's a proven technology. It's ease of reapplication. We just need to jet wash the system and just paint the concrete surface again, and the system will work. And it's highly sustainable. Currently, we have been applied to two structures, one in Coventry, United Kingdom, and one is Telford. One is the cross beam in the car part, and one is a site which we use it for training purposes. So it's been about 7 months we have been applied this structure. Uh, so we could see that it's satisfying the required performance criteria, that is about minus 720 millivolt, instantaneous off potential, or 100 millivolt decay in 24 hours. So either of these criteria need to be satisfied for a successful system. And you can see from the table above, it is satisfying either of these two criteria. And the system is performing well even after seven months now. This is another site in Telford. So this is the typical application method. So we prepare the concrete surface, we install the reference electrodes for monitoring the potential values. We do the first coat of paint, we install the primary anode wires, we protect that anode wire using any fiber mat, and then finally do the second coat of paint. So it's a very simple application technique to protect the corrosion. So just painting the concrete surface will protect the steel behind under the concrete. So we don't need to actually break the concrete to the steel surface to protect it. We can just paint the concrete surface, and the steel will be corrosion.
You can come to conclusions. All right.
So just a conclusion, cathode protection is by far the most successful technique to prevent chloride-induced corrosion. Its various forms of CP anodes are available, and still their demand of new anode system, which has improved durability, service life, and performance. And therefore, we have been working on a new system, which we are calling as concrete cap, which is basically a composite anode system, which offers easy application, longer service life, better durability and performance compared to the available conductive coating anodes. Thank you.
Thank you, Arpit, for your nice presentation and for your wonderful research. And the question sessions are open for audience also, if anyone has any questions from the audience. Meanwhile, you can enlighten us where all you can use the new protection system you are mentioning. You have shown two case studies which you are doing. Where all you can extend the study further to?
Basically, we have already applied patent for it. So it's all the lab testing has already been completed. So we're just monitoring, doing some site trials before the full commercialization part of it. So it can be either applied to any car parts or any brick structure which is atmospherically exposed, not for the submerged structures, but any atmospherically exposed concrete structures.
Pankaj sir?
Yes, Dr. Arpit, my question is very basic. When we are talking about cathodic protection, is there, as you said, you are applying zinc coating over it. Is there any some sort of table or any process by which we can define these are the materials which are used for cathodic protection, or these are the particular chemicals?
Generally, basically, sir, any anode materials for cathode protection should be conductive, because the idea is to supply that current or the electrons from that external material to the steel bar. So for that we need that the material should be conductive enough. So when we apply that external current, it would easily pass those electrons to the steel bar through the concrete being non-conductive completely. So we need that force of electrons to pass through the concrete and reach the steel bar. So one of the main criteria is that the material which we are using should be conductive.
So is there any role of EMF series in it, or?
Yes. EMF series basically mainly for galvanic system, because galvanic system doesn't require any external power supply. So it works basically on the potential difference between the anode material and the steel bar. So zinc, that's why zinc has been mostly used as a galvanic system, because it has less electronegative potential than the steel bar itself. So instead of steel sacrificing the electrons, zinc sacrifices its electrons for the anodic reaction, and only cathodic reaction happens in the steel bar.
Okay.
Once Arpit, can you come to your results which
Sure,
you have shown in your slides?
These ones.
Yeah. So these are monitored over a period of.
4 years, sir.
Okay. So these are 4-year study results.
Yes.
So you have found out the bond strength is varying from. This is for different structures. You have given bond strength.
No, so basically this concrete cap is our paint. This is the commercial paint which are already available in the market. So these are basically the coating anode system. So coating system mainly fail because of the weakening of the bond between the paint and the concrete structure. That's the main failure mechanism of any coating system. So we found that the coating system we developed has much more higher bond strength than any available coating anodes in the market currently. And even after aging it to 50 kilocoulomb charge, its bond strength is much higher than any available systems.
Okay. And you have estimated to 45 years of service life.
Yes, 30 to 45 years of service life. And
There's
even
some criteria to it which you have applied.
Sorry?
The estimated service life is based on some empirical results.
No, we actually did some accelerated test in the laboratory
Okay.
for estimating the service life. And even after, say, it fails, depending on the condition, it fails after 30 years. It's simple reapplication, jet washing the paint and just using any roller or brush or even sprays to paint the concrete surface again.
Okay, so one resurfacing, redressing, I can say it, can extend its life up to around 15 years. That's what you are meaning.
So next 15 years we can still work. So supposedly this structure fails after 35 years. So we don't need to install all these things again. We just need to jet wash it and reapply the paint.
Okay. Okay. A very good presentation. Anything else from the audience? Okay, once again, thank you, Arpit. So we'll like to next call upon Mr. Abhinav Malu for his presentation. You can keep instructions in mind, Abhinav. You can present your.
Hello.
Yes, Abhinav, you are audible. You can present your PPT. Next, we will have Mr. Ram Prakash, so he can be ready for the next presentation.
हाँ शेयर स्क्रीन दिखाई दे रही है।
राम प्रकाश सर, आपका अभिनव के बाद में करेंगे। एक बार अभिनव अभी शेयर कर रहे हैं, देन नेक्स्ट विल बी यस।
Hello. Hello.
Yes, your PPT is visible. You can make it full screen and start your presentation.
Okay. So my name is Abhinav. I did my bachelor's in from CEPT University. So in that time only I wrote this. I started my research paper on geotechnical instruments. I did my training at Mumbai Metro Line 3 with L&T and Aztec, which were doing underground construction. So basically, geotechnical engineering.
If possible, can you do it full screen?
So
we are only able to see the non-full screen version of it.
1 minute. Is it now full screen or?
Presentation is not coming now.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Your presentation is not visible.
Yeah. This is visible.
Yeah, now it's okay. Good.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Press hide and then go ahead.
Okay. So basically, the introduction what geotechnical engineering is. Everyone knows that we are from engineering background, and I was on this project which I did with L&T and Aztec. I was an intern over there. in Mumbai. We were doing the underground construction, and mostly there were heritage structures all around all the four stations in the package one. So most of the almost 70% of the heritage structures were in the package one, and they were doing a lot in geotechnical instruments. They were measuring and monitoring the different geotechnical parameters so that they can conserve the heritage buildings over there. So I found the need for study for this paper was first because of heritage structures, which are quite important, and second was underground construction in metro cities. We usually don't have much space, so underground construction is a common practice. And failures, so basically failures are the third main challenges which construction industry is facing. Uh, so this was the research methodology for this. I did some establish the basic knowledge about geotechnical instrumentation, its approach, and in this phase, qualitative method is different previous works, monitoring methods, different types of geotechnical instrumentation have been studied. So in the analyzing thing, I've made a typical instrumentation skill which can be read and understand, and which can be parallelly used to establish a geotechnical instrumentation planning for a similar sites or different sites. In conclusion and recommendation, I recommend that how important our geotechnical instrumentations are. So these are the basic benefits of geotechnical instrumentation in all the phases of construction, the design phase, the execution phase, and the post-execution phase. So basically, the role of instrumentation is for the structure safety, the design verification, the construction control, and in post-execution phase, the in-service performance of the structures. Basically, instruments are generally can be bifurcated on different parameters what we have to monitor, such as before the orientation, stress, velocity, temperature, pressure, and different things. So, transducers from the basic geotechnical instruments. So, they are the electronic devices which convert these signals gathered in the course of monitoring from the instruments which are in the field, and they are converted into digital data which can be further analyzed, and we can compare the values. So this is a kind of instrument which is called building settlement point, which is used to measure the settlements of the structures, the vertical settlements of the critical buildings. And this is a tilt meter. Tilt meter, it is used for vertical and horizontal tilts in the buildings. These are the bireflex targets, which usually have three coordinates, x, y, z coordinates. So every time in every certain interval time, the coordinates are matched, and the displacement can be easily uh, calculated from this. This is a crack meter usually used to measure the width of the cracks which are in the buildings, and which mainly occur due to the construction activities going on the periphery areas. This is a pavement settlement point used to know the vertical settlement of the pavements. Again, this the elevation of the settlement point are measured with digital levels. This is a inclinometer which measures the inclination, the lateral deformation, the inclinations of the ground evoked by the construction activities. This is a piezometer. On the right side, you can see the image how on the side, and personnel is measuring the water level during the construction activities so that they can know the water levels and water behaviors. So these are the basic instruments which I studied at my site, and these are something which can be used to monitor and know the structure safety of the structures in the vicinity of the construction. Apart from instrumentation is quite important. If we don't have any proper instrumentation planning, then the instrumentation which we install on the site is quite obviously a failure. So planning is a process in steps which are listed below. We should know the project definition of the project, identifying mechanism, like what mechanism we have to do, what kind of instruments we have to do. We have to find the identification purpose, identification. Then after doing the basic project definition and having the knowledge of the project, we estimate the limits and remedial actions, then a monitoring program, and how interval and what interval should we have to monitor the instruments. And then it is the planning installation field works is generally the on-site maintenance and installation of the instruments, and the data collection and analysis, and then reporting and implementation on the results which are gathered and which are analyzed after the data collection. So this is a typical instrumentation scheme. You can see the four figures in the top. So I'll be discussing about a typical instrumentation scheme, which is quite helpful in understanding how a proper planning for the instrumentation on a site can be done. On the left side, you can see a construction layout. This is a construction layout of a project. It shows construction area in the middle and the existing buildings. And on the right side, the second step, the second figure is settlement contours. We study the project area, the project definition. We make the settlement contours, the primary, secondary, and tertiary contours. The primary is the one which have more impact of the construction activities. On in this side, you can see the different field instrumentation where the existing side. On the right side, you can see implementer settlement clearing points which are installed. These are the pictures from the site. And the fourth is the field instrumentation in the existing structures. Existing building assessment was made before the construction is initiated. So, different instrumentation like tilt meter, track meters, high reflex targets are installed in the building. On the left side, you can see the pictures. Then the basic step is the instrumentation monitoring. We always calibrate the instrumentation and have pilot readings. Those are the base readings and the monitoring criteria. And from the monitoring criteria, we get the values of the and then we process the data. So basic conclusion for this paper was just to provide the basic overview of the instrumentation, how assessing the health of the existing information structure during construction in its vicinity. So, for ensuring the effectiveness of the monitoring program, proper control of construction, accuracy of instrumentation, and performance of the instrumentation, proper planning and instrumentation is necessary. So, geotechnical instrumentations are of immense value and forms an integral part of all the phases of construction, whether in all the in the design, execution, and the post-execution phase. So typical scheme for instrumentation which is presented in the paper can be used as a tool to understand the process of instrumentation. So these were the basic conclusions which I had from my paper from study. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abhinav, for your detailed study during your L&T days, if I'm right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So you have written this paper along with your research guide currently?
Yeah. Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, you have written this paper with your research guide, Doctor?
Yeah, with my professor, Dr. Parth Thakur.
Okay, okay. So has he also been involved in the site activities?
No, on site I was only available. I did this training in 2019. I was on the site for 6 months, and after that we had a discussion and we tried to write a research paper.
Your voice is breaking. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was on the site for the 6 months, and I got this concept that we should concentrate on this and we should write something, so we can do something for heritage structures, which are quite important structures.
Did some kind of data also generated from the recordings of these instruments?
Yeah, I have some kind of data, but I was not allowed to disclose the data because it was quite a confidential project.
Okay. Over to Pankaj sir.
No, sir, it's okay. Thank you, Abhinav, from my side.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, and next is Mr. Ram Prakash, if he can have his presentation with us.
Good afternoon to all honored speaker, respected member, guest, to give me opportunity on this paper. Good afternoon to all honored speaker, respected member, guest.
Can you put your mic on mute?
Yeah.
Please, you can go ahead, sir. Your presentation was visible. You can switch to your presentation. Right now, we are able to see your Meet screen. You can show your PPT to us. Yes, thank you. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon to all honor speaker, respected member and guest to give me opportunity on this platform for sharing knowledge and learning in the first international conference of ICC ME 2021. My case study is structural assessment of an overhead storage reservoir using NDT. Introduction, sir. The Indian mainland is considered among the world's most disaster-inclined regions, with almost 59% of total land mass prone to earthquake, 8.5% to cyclones, and 5% to floods. All public structures like overhead storage reservoirs that predate mandatory earthquake-resistant design formulation need structural assessment, especially the ones situated amidst densely inhabited area. There is an accentuated need for residual life estimation followed by restoration and retrofitting of all utilitarian structure. Methodology: assessment of an overhead tank. Overhead tank study was a circular tank, reinforced concrete, elevated water storage reservoir of capacity 100 cubic meter with a shaft type RC support of external diameter 8.54 meter. The function of the structure was to provide water under pressure, and the elevated tank is reported to have been constructed in 1970s. Thus, the structure was almost 50 years old. The tank had a single post broken RC staircase located inside the shaft. The overhead tank was stopped to have visible signs of distress and surface cracks, which led to the requirement of assessment, repair, and structural rehabilitation. I done the NDT testing for this purpose. The visual inspection of the tank, compressive strength evaluation by core test page by core test, rebound hammer test, and UPV test. NDT test was conducted. Visual inspection, identification of cracks, minor, major, and its pattern study, identification loss in concrete, cover or spalling, identification scaling or corrosion of reinforcement or structural steel, locating areas of water seepage, reporting severity of damages and probable causes, studying damages to expansion joints, crack development at interface of concrete structural steel. These are the rebound hammer test, or these are the result of rebound hammer test. ये जो है RS reading were taken on the surface location prepared. 6 readings were taken at the location. All readings were taken with the hammer position perpendicular to the surface, and the bottom 1/3 of the shaft structure was covered. The readings of the RS were later correlated with the strength of the concrete using the calibration graph. Carbonation affects the RS results. However, effect is likely to be similar in all the concrete location. Hence, No corrosion for particular locations in this regard was considered necessary. The tests were performed at ambient temperature conditions. The average estimated cube compressive strength by RH test is 32 Newton per mm square. The estimation of the strength of concrete by RH techniques, etc. USPV test, the total UPV tests were 24 UPV tests were performed at site. The average overall quality of concrete for the points tested was found to be doubtful. USPV test results. These are the results. Sharing लिखा है आपने, किसी ने concluding, the structure is old and shows visible signs of deterioration of concrete and corrosion of reinforcement. Therefore, RH test could not be used for accurate estimation of concrete strength. Result of the UPV test suggested that the quality of concrete was doubtful at all the locations. The cylindrical RC shaft stacking for elevated tanks has insufficient redundancy, damping, and seismic resistance typically present in beam column support systems. The tank is situated amidst highly inhabited area, and its collapse will result in great losses of property and humans. The tank should be demolished and a new one built with column beam stacking. The strengthening of water tank with considerations given to the results obtained from NDT's retrofitting techniques such as braced system, carbon fiber jacketing, construction in staging of the water tank may not be successful and cost effective. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Ramprakash sir. So these testings you have done yourself?
Yes, sir. I have done myself all the testing.
Okay, so you are also from Manav Rachna?
No, sir. I am a retired superintending engineer from Municipal Corporation of Faridabad.
Okay, okay. You have written this paper with Sunita ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
Dr. Sunita ma'am.
Okay, okay. Wonderful to see your contributions at such an advanced stage. We are very honored to have you and have these results with us. So, sir, you have found that the structure was not performing well.
Yes, sir. Not performing well.
Okay, so you have done all three kinds of non-destructive testing.
Yes, sir.
This water tank was designed for M40, or what grade of concrete it was designed for?
It was designed 50 years ago. There is no data in the office also what was the designed concrete का जो grade.
Okay, okay. तो उस टाइम कुछ नॉमिनल मिक्स से बनाया था, कुछ मतलब उसका कोई डेटा अवेलेबल नहीं है?
And no data is available in regard to 50 years ago. The tanks were constructed by Public Health Department.
Okay.
And offices has been transferred many times there and where. After that, the whole the area of located in municipal corporation transferred to municipal corporation of Hudda area and public health area, and all the other department of Haryana government मतलब वो उसमें नगर निगम में मर्ज कर दिया.
अच्छा सर, एक क्वेश्चन था जो काफी वैलिड क्वेश्चन है कि जब वहां पे हमें कोरोजन मिला तो हाफ सेल पोटेंशियल टेस्ट या फिर कोई कोरोजन के लिए कोई टेस्ट किया आपने एनडीटी में? एनडीटी टेस्टिंग के लिए हाफ सेल पोटेंशियल टेस्ट या कोरोजन रेट निकालने के लिए और कोई टेस्टिंग भी आपने साथ में करी थी? बिकॉज आपने भी जैसे आपके रिजल्ट्स में दिखाया है
सर हाफ सेल पोटेंशियल टेस्ट नहीं किया सर.
अच्छा,
क्योंकि there was not possible, as you seen cracks on the shaft, circular shaft, so there was no possible such type of test.
Okay.
So the plaster was very loose.
Acha.
हाँ.
Okay. Anything else from the audience? And Pankaj sir, you can.
No, sir. Thank you, Ram Prakash, sir.
Thank you, Ram Prakash sir, for your wonderful presentation and honoring us with your experiences. Next presenter, I would like to call on. Are you here, Rose?
Yes, sir. Dr. Rose in it. Yes.
Dr. Rose, please, you can go.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, doctor.
Yes.
You can please go ahead.
Yeah. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. It's indeed a great pleasure in presenting my paper in the first international conference on construction materials and environment. And before starting the presentation, I really like to congratulate you for the wonderful organization. It's really good. From morning, I was listening to your keynote. I mean, all the activities. It's really good. Okay, my paper ID is number 38, and the title of my paper is Road Bridges Across Koovam and Adyar Rivers in Chennai City and the Need for Structural Health Monitoring. And the authors of this paper are Dr. A. Rosenett, myself, Professor and Head, Rajalakshmi Engineering College, Chennai, and Mrs. S. Stella, a research scholar at Karunya Institute of Technology, Coimbatore, and Mrs. M. Gautam Priya, Assistant Professor, Rajalakshmi, Dr. P. Gajalakshmi, and Dr. Revati, professors from B.S. Abdur Rahman, Present Institute, Chennai. The content of the presentation includes introduction, location of bridges and basis of selection for conducting structural health monitoring, the need of the hour for structural health monitoring, why performance assessment of bridges needed, initiatives taken in Tamil Nadu by state highways, experimental investigation, results and discussion, and conclusion. So let me start with the introduction on bridges. As we know, bridges are the structures which are spanned across a physical obstacle, be it a water body, valley, or road. And the pictures might show you, be it the first pic, which is the fallen trees. In earlier days, people were using the fallen trees for crossing an obstacle. And then came rusting stepping stones for crossing streams. So people were using the naturally available materials. And then to cross the woody areas or inaccessible areas, we started providing boardwalks, pedestrian timber bridges, etc. And then we also use natural available materials like stones to construct bridges. And along with that, even nature helped us in helping us in crossing an obstacle by building itself, and namely living root bridges. And let me just show you the old bridges in Chennai city. Why am I showing you this? Is there are n number of bridges built in Chennai, which are standing magnificent and acting a social symbol. But also along with the new bridges, we also have very old bridges which are in Chennai city, once very functional, but now in a deteriorated state. And listing few, showing few. So figure 1 shows Periyar Bridge, which is in Chennai, which was built in 1805 and rebuilt in 1920. Excuse me, please. Excuse me, please. Yeah, once. Sorry for the interruption. Sorry for the interruption. So the Periyar Bridge, which was built in 1805, and it is rebuilt in 1920. So this was once the most important bridge, and now it is in a deteriorated state. And we believe that, we as public believe that there are initiatives taken in maintaining these bridges, but it is not happening. And let me show you the figure number 2, which is Napier Bridge, which was built in 1869, and the new bridge was built alongside in 1999. It is the most functional bridge, which is connecting two important places like Marina Beach, Santhom. And but even then we see the physically when you're investigating, we see cracks, and also we feel the vibrations. And I'm showing figure 3, which is the old bridge which is in use, and it is in a place named Avadi, now with the damaged concrete railings on either side, but people are using it. And it is the incomplete bridge which is constructed across Koovam rivers. And also the figure 4, which is a panoramic view of Adyar River estuary and the broken bridge. bridge. Okay, so broken bridge which stands idle, which was built in 1967, and a portion of the bridge got collapsed in the Adyar River in 1977 during a flood, and it is still remaining in the same state without any initiatives taken by the government. But it is really a beautiful place wherein people just log in to click sceneries. I mean, to have a scenic view, to have a nice place to be. But it is not helping the fishermen folk, because the fishermen folk were the public who were really using this place, and this bridge was initially used by the fishermen, and this can be accessed by means of cycle rickshaws and cycles to move from Samtom Beach to Elliott's Bridge. But now it is not used by the fishermen folk, which was really the intention for which the bridge was built on. And when I'm saying about the Coovam and Adyar rivers, these are the classified rivers which are running across city. And when I say Coovam River, it is of 64 kilometers in length, out of which 34 kilometer length is running inside the Chennai city and the rest in rural areas. Similarly, the Adyar River too. So I am just picking bridges which are running across Coovam and Adyar rivers, and most of the rivers there are there, but my scope is limited to bridges across Coovam and Adyar rivers. Yeah. So next, let me show you the location of bridges and the basis of selection. So my paper focused on the study of the need of SHM on what is SHM, which is structural health monitoring, on the road bridges built across Coovam River, and selecting few zones in few wards, namely zone 5, 8, 9 and 13 out of 13 zones, and road bridges across Adyar River, which is zone 10 and 13 in various wards, along with a case study. I am going to present this work along with the case study. And why am I fixing these road zones? Because these are the zones in which there are most important road bridges available still under the consideration of maintenance by the government. So I'm just taking it as a chance to projecting it to the government or the readers to have a special focus on maintaining the bridges built in these zones. So let me name few bridges, namely Binni Bridge, Anderson Bridge, Anna Nagar Bridge, etc. And also namely Trivika Bridge, which is inaugurated in 1973 and damaged in 1982-85 due to the rush of flood water. So there is scope for maintenance and people may be benefited. And showing few figures like Adyar River Bridge, Kakkan Bridge, and Napier Bridge. And when I'm giving an importance to Kakkan Bridge, this is near our locality. This is the most functional bridge. We can see in the morning time, we can see a number of people using this bridge, but we could feel the vibration physically, and you can feel the vibration just touching the rails. So I just wanted to give importance on this bridge also. So what is the need of the hour? The need of the hour is to detect the damages or deteriorations in the bridge structures which are subjected to operational loading, accidental impacts, wind speed, ground motions, effects on the bridges due to aging, traffic overloading, and natural calamities such as cyclones, tsunami, flooding, changes in temperature and relative humidity, etc. Showing some figures collected from the incidents around the world, and not specifically focused on the Chennai city, just collected around the world. It is the ground motion, the bridge which has failed due to Kobe earthquake, and because the bridge which has failed due to accidental impacts, and the bridges which are the components which are failed due to the salting of the surface of text, resulting in corrosion, and then the foundations covering because of the unexpected inundation of flood in various river zones. And I'm just showing you the traffic congestion, unexpected traffic congestion. The first pic which I'm showing you is the traffic in Padi flyover, and which is recently clicked when there's an announcement on what's that, during coronavirus, okay, shutdown. So this was announced, and the people, they started clogging when this shutdown, immediately people flooded and the traffic exceeded the limit. And this is the heavy traffic at Poonamali High Road near the Chennai Central following a heavy downpour. So if there is a downpour, immediately there is a clogging of traffic. So these are unexpected, and we are in a very serious state to investigate these bridges on its current state. So why performance assessment of bridges needed? So it's because most of the bridges were built using the design codes adopting inadequate design proficiency, and in order to ensure the structural safety and to estimate the residual life of the structures, performance of bridges becomes mandatory. So the performance assessment, it includes both experimental investigation and analytical investigation. And when we say experimental investigation, we cannot conduct experimental investigation for the whole span of the bridge, okay, considering the cost involved and also the accessibility of the bridge. Okay, in that case, we can conduct experimental for a part of the structure, and assessing it, we can also go in for analytical investigation on the whole structure. The structural health monitoring of bridge, it helps in detecting the existence of the damage on the structure, locating the damage, identifying the types of damage, and quantifying the severity of the damage. And the need for SHM, it is to prepare a detailed report on the durability and criticality of the bridge components, provide information to the stakeholders and the concerned authorities on the damage reduction under environmental conditions, design, operation, management of bridges throughout the structure's lifespan, provide recommendations on retrofitting applications of the bridge components, above all, ensuring the public safety and continuous serviceability of the bridges. And this is the initiative taken by the Tamil Nadu Innovation Initiative Scheme in 2019. And this was done on, so there are around 8,600 major to minor bridges in state. And this was the first initiative taken in Tamil Nadu. And this was implemented on a bridge named Dika to Tangal Bridge. And there are around 41 electronic devices. In spite of conducting physical inspection, there are also 41 electronic devices, which includes 24 strain gauge sensors, 10 LVDTs, 3 accelerometer sensors, and 4 temperature gauges to assess it. And it is it's concluded that by analyzing the data to the software platform, the location and severity of deterioration and damage can automatically be assessed on real-time basis. So this is really an encouraging scheme introduced. And let me just project the case study which I have done on a study bridge to assess its flexural rigidity. To start with, so the bridge which I worked on is Coimbatore Bridge, which is the most functional bridge in Chennai city. And it is, the picture shows you the longitudinal view of the Coimbatore Bridge and the elevation of the bridge bend. And the description is, it is a simply supported T-beam cum slab bridge, and the length of the bridge is 119.7, and there are around 8 number of spans. Each span is of length 16.21 meters, and there are 4 number of longitudinal girders, 5 number of cross girders, and the grade of concrete used was M25, and the grade of steel was Fe415. And this gives you the structural data of the longitudinal girders, bent cap beams, bent columns, and bearing pads. The objective of the study was to conduct live load tests to record the response of bridge components, and validating the results with the linear elastic analysis on a single span of the bridge just by measuring the flexural rigidity. So let me quickly rush through. So this is the testing setup, which includes the wireless testing system with strain transducers, and the methodology is it's a bridge. This is my research project, which included a data acquisition system, which is procured from VDI, which is Bridge Diagnostic Systems, which includes evaluate the live load response, conducting a live load test, and then parallelly we model it in analytically, and then conduct a linear elastic analysis, modify the model, compare the model data, analytical data with the field measured data, and then we can measure the accurate load rate. And this shows the positioning of the strain transducers on the bridge. And we selected the first span of the bridge because it was inaccessible. This bridge was constructed across Kuvam River. The first span was accessible and the other adjacent spans were not accessible. So we prepared the ground and in the first span, and this is mounted near the abutment. Now this is the longitudinal girder, and this is the cross girder, and we mounted. We were limited to 9 strain transducers. We mounted 8 on the structure, and one was considered as a control device which connected to the data acquisition system. And then we positioned on the top of the girder, bottom of the girder, and on the side of the longitudinal girder, and one along the cross beam. And we were limited to that because of the funding available. And we just mounted it, and this image shows the positioning of the girders. And this shows the positioning of the girders. This too, showing the pics of various positions. And we used strain transducers which had increased metal length because we were working on road bridges in order to account for the cracks trucks happened near the position zone, we also had the increased length of the metal, which predicts the strain, which records the strain in the nearer zones also. And this table shows you the name of the strain transducer, which we named, and the position, corresponding position. So, for example, B2096 is the transducer which is mounted on the top of the longitudinal girder near the abutment. Similarly, the others. And this is the truck employed for the bridge testing. And this is the truck position in the prescribed path. And we positioned the truck in such a way that it was moving over the longitudinal girder on which the strain transducers were mounted.
Sorry for the interruption, Dr. Rose. We have very limited time.
Yes, sir.
Please conclude.
Yes, sir. I'll show that, sir. Let me go to the conclusion part directly. So I'll just show you one image which shows the response history of the field measured data and the computed data. So the line shows the field measured data and the box shows the computed data. So after getting the field measured data, we modeled it on using a software named WinGen. We compared the histories, and then we were conducting trial and error and modifying the flexural rigidity. And once the history superposed, we concluded the flexural rigidity. Let me go to the conclusion. Thus, my conclusion is limited to the need of structural SHM on the bridges in Chennai city, and also the case study which I conducted on a bridge, and concluding that the effective stiffness was found to be 80% of the gross stiffness, and this were recommended to the officials for necessary repair and rehabilitation processes. So thus structural health monitoring of road bridges will increase the life of the structure, serving public in a longer run once conducted in a proper timing. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Rose, for your presentation.
Yes,
and for your experimental research work.
Yes,
so you have found out that a gross moment of inertia has the gross EI value has changed up to 0.8%.
EI, that is flexural rigidity, the combination of Young's modulus and EI. Yeah, we just modified. We couldn't change the Young's modulus. We just because when on the physical inspection, we found that the concrete covers were spalled out, and we could see the reinforcements, and most of the reinforcements were corroded, and we could see the neutral axis being shifted. So we worked more on the moment of inertia.
So have you done the corrugated model also of the rebars in your software?
Yes, sir. We included it. We included it in the software.
How much percentage of corrosion was found out, or you have completed?
I'm sorry to say, we didn't work completely on the corrosion factor. We just modified on the model. The model was limited to, the scope of the software is limited to modifying the rigidity alone in terms of percentage. Like
because it was a linear elastic analysis.
Yeah, it was linear elastic analysis.
Okay, you have changed the neutral axis position, and then based on that, you have found out that EI value has changed this much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we use this for analytical investigation. My scope was conducting analytical investigation, pushover analysis. So even before starting that analytical investigation, we conducted this study. We used this value in the real model, in the SAP, instead of focusing on code books. Just taking the code book provisions.
This research is funded by government of Tamil Nadu?
Yeah, yes, sir, UGC. This project was funded by UGC. My guide was funded as she was helping me in carrying out this work.
Okay. Anything from audience, Dr. Pankaj?
Ma'am, as you said, you got EI value around 80% of initial flexural rigidity.
Yes, sir.
So for EI, from where you get the value for load?
So we use the truck, isn't it? We use the multi-axle truck. For that axle truck, for that load, we conducted multiple tests. We conducted for 7 days. 7 days we conducted using different trucks, and this was the heavily loaded truck for that particular bridge. So for that truck loading, we found this rigidity, and we assumed that that is more than enough for the limited loading in that bridge. Hope I am clear.
So in initial design, as suggested by the consultant or designer, so this is the particular capacity of bridge. So how much amount of load you applied in your case?
It is a 80-ton truck. It is a 80-ton truck.
Suppose initial capacity is 100 ton of that particular bridge. So in your study, how much load you applied?
I'm sorry. See, actually, the bridge was limited to 90 ton. The bridge was limited to 90 ton. I mean, to my understanding, I'm saying.
So,
Hope I'm answering it correctly. We use different vehicles of different loading, different ton. And hope I'm answering your question. Am I?
I think not, no, ma'am.
Okay.
Not
I'm sorry.
exactly, because if you are saying 90 ton, it means 90 ton for a multi-axle truck only.
Yeah, 80 ton truck. It's 80 ton truck. The one we used was
Yes.
80 ton truck.
But I am talking about capacity of particular span. So when, as you said, this is that now the limit is the particular fluxual rigidity at 80%. It means you are comparing with the initial capacity of that particular bridge. But
Yes.
if we are not applying a load up to the ultimate capacity, in that case we can't say it is
Okay.
80% anyway.
Okay.
It is a very
So you
wonderful
actually,
idea.
yeah, actually, to answer your question, actually, when I started with analytical investigation, was I mean, 70% of the work was done, and I adopted the actual from the. It was a 20 years old bridge, so I just used the data given by the highways, and I used 100% of E&I, and 70% of the work was done, and then we were funded in between. So we really wanted to test on the bridge, and once we conducted, I found that the flexural rigidity has reduced. So I used this 80% in my analytical modeling, and I proceeded with that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you so much for all the participants for patiently listening to all of the papers till now. So we'll be proceeding ahead in the next session from 2 o'clock. So we'll be having 1 hour lunch gap. So at 2 we will meet, and the next paper ID, this paper ID number 84, we will start from there. So thank you once again for joining in this session. We will again meet at 2 o'clock.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dharmesh sir.
Thank you, Dr. Pankaj, and thank you all of the participants once again.